Yet another great episode of My Hero Academia, this time season 7, episode 17. Shout out to Lady Nagant, shout out to Kuragiri, and shout out to Tokoyami taking the next steps. Let's talk about that. All right, guys, Brent here back with you. Variants cover all things Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, anime, gaming, Star Wars, and more. This time, My Hero Academia, season 7, episode 17. Hopes. And I gotta say, there were so many people's hopes that were on the line in this episode. Hope is a fragile thing in this Japanese society of My Hero Academia, who has been constantly rocked and bombarded by All for One, his schemes, and this army of the League of Villains that has shaken up the core of Japan to where the belief system in both either the success of the country or the success of the heroes is about this big. It's not very high, hopes are dwindling, but at the same time, people are starting to push things forward in a now more positive perspective. We're starting to see the payoff of Deku kind of going back in time and really just trying to friendship no jutsu for all intents and purposes. Naruto coined that phrase basically that by having a heart to heart with these villains, he was able to see who they truly were, not who they were presenting themselves to be, but just truly who they were. And for all intents and purposes, Lady Nagant was a stone cold killer assassin. She was someone you do not mess with. She would have been akin to DC's Deathstroke. She's someone who all it takes is one shot, and that is the end for whoever is up on her list. She didn't care who she worked for, as long as she got paid, she was able to get the job done in whatever uncertain circumstances. Lady Nagant was someone you do not play around with. Gentle Fist, for any and all intents and purposes, was basically going to go out and attack a school and make sure that those students were not able to see the light of day because he got a bad rap from the hero world. Gentle Fist and La Brava were terrorizing the entirety of Class 1A, and they were going to have a gargantuan effect on the school affair that they had going on, where they're trying to raise hopes and happiness and make sure that everyone was still, functioning as high as it can. He was basically trying to squash their hopes as fast as he could, but got again, Deku showed up and thwarted him. And then on top of that, we also had someone who's not a villain, but someone who needed some push in the right direction, and with Tokoyami. Tokoyami has been such a cool character. Having Dark Shadow as a quirk is super, super cool. I have to imagine it's super tedious and super strenuous to have to control a basically demon bird that can, in with too much darkness, either within yourself or within your surrounding area, can envelop you and your mindset, and it takes a constant vigilance to keep that under wraps so you're not really just hurting those you truly care about and putting things into a bad perspective. Like, imagine having a really bad day and your quirk is able to manifest itself even stronger and then go out and just make your bad day a whole heck of a lot worse. It sounds kind of like a nightmare. But going back to Lady Nagant, we're seeing just how much Deku is able to touch people's hearts. And that goes in with the episode title of Hopes. Without Deku being the hope of the next generation or of this Japanese society within My Hero Academia, there's not a lot of hope for anybody or for anything, because he was able to talk to Lady Nagant, reason with her, have some conversation with her, albeit he was fighting for his life in no uncertain circumstances constantly. He was able to sway a powerful, powerful ally to their side of saving Japan and the society in which they all live in. Because if Shigaraki had been able to put his hand down and start doing the quirk of decay, the amount of heroes that we would have lost would have been astronomical. Class 1A would be basically class 1A and a half. Well, class 1A half. It is not necessarily going to be looking anything the same. all all the students that were within the school on that internal side working on the engineering, how are they getting out? They're not. The ground that is touched, they are fully encased within it. Bakugo, who's in no uncertain terms dead right now, hanging out in the million's arms, how are you supposed to move him safely to get up past now the decayed area? It's over. Shigaraki had a W wrapped up, and he was literally this close to putting his hand down on the ground, only to just get boom, one hand shot down. So he's like, okay, cool. I'm gonna use the other hand. Boom. And Lady Gigant, for all intents and purposes, taking these shots from cross country miles distance away. It is rainy, it is windy, it is miserable, it is terrible. Lady Nagant saved so many lives that is absolutely insane. And then having Gentle being able to use his elasticity to hold up the sphere in the school is changing the hearts and minds of so many, because so many people saw him for what they perceived him to be, and that was someone who was trying to literally terrorize a school of kids and ensure that absolute chaos and destruction bestowed and fell upon them. Now they're seeing Gentle basically saving everyone's lives, and it's being recorded on people's phones because, hey, for all intents and purposes, people could still watch these series of events play out. And now they're just going to live stream it to everybody to be like, hey, just so you're aware, this person you had kind of a terrible opinion about, well, that's changed a bit. He seems to be an entirely different person. He seems to be someone who's drastically helping society and starting to push things in a more positive perspective, both literally and proverbially. Then we switch over to the battlefield of All For One. And All For One's battlefield, we thought he scored an absolute W. He used his palm wind power to go ahead and hit Hawks, and we thought, for all intents and purposes, that Hawks was no longer with us. Luckily, Shiketsu Hai, who we've all entirely forgot about, myself included, showed up to make an absolute astounding save, not only for Hawks, but now we have people using wind powers, we have people using the power of manipulation, and they are taking control of the battlefield and making this army of twice that has manifested itself through Toga to kind of have a minimal effect. We're getting things pushed forward in a way that now we're starting to see that people are fighting back and pushing back against this demon lord. And ultimately, we even saw Kuragiri fight back against the demon lord. Kuragiri saw that his old best friends, Present Mike and Eraserhead, who were basically falling to their doom because neither one can fly, that one or both of them could have, kicked the bucket, was able to use his powers and basically portal them out of there right in front of the hero's eyes, who are now just as astounded because Kuragiri basically brought all hell with him using his quirk, but now all of a sudden is manifesting a conscience and realizing that there's still some good left in himself, and he's fighting the evil that All For One has put within him. All For One is going toe to toe with Tokoyami. He's going All For One with the Hawks, and he's going with Shiketsu Hai. It is basically a battle royale versus All For One. And because of All For One's proficiency and just overall power level, which, hey, put some respect on All Might's name. He was 1v1ing this dude who is now basically going 100 versus 1 and still having the definitive advantage to continue to do what he needs to do. And that's not even talking about the fact that next episode, it looks like we're going to be focusing on Gigantomachia back in the battlefield for the villains. And we're still going to finally start seeing some more battles involving Dobby and Endeavor, which we have all eagerly been waiting for, myself included, to finally be illustrated on the small screen. Right now, Bones is cooking, and what I think would be fantastic if you're cooking would be to hit that lovely red subscribe button. You've watched me for about 8, almost 9 minutes now. Clearly, you love some style of the content that we are delivering to you, the viewer. And I hope that you do hit that subscribe button, as next week we have tons of amazing content coming for you, coming in the forms of Agatha Along Wednesday at 9 Eastern Standard Time. That Thursday morning at 3 Eastern Standard Time in the morning, Rings of Power, another live stream. And then that Thursday night, we will have the Penguin Episode 1 premiere at 9 Eastern Standard Time. I hope to see you there. I've been Brent for Geek Variants. Have a good night, folks.